Hi, I'm Matthew Herzberg, and this is the Myopia Mindset. This is your weekly dose for motivation, education, and inspiration on your path towards success with myopia management. And I've got a very special episode lined up for us today. I've got three awesome experts in myopia management and orthokeratology on the call with me today. And we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be delving into the design aspects of orthokeratology. And before we get started, I'm going to introduce my guests, and then I'm going to hand it over to one of them, and then we're going to kick things off. So first, I'm going to introduce Miss Irene Sophia Joseph. She is a leading optometrist based in Dubai, a graduate of the Elite School of Optometry, and trained at Sankarya Netralia. She began her career in hospital-based optometry before founding her own clinic focused on myopia management, orthokeratology, and vision therapy. Renowned for her work in specialty contact lenses, pediatric eye care, and electrodiagnostics. She's lectured globally and holds fellowships with both the International Academy of Orthokeratology and the British Contact Lens Association. Irene, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Matt. Happy to be here.
And if anybody wants to get in touch with you over the course of this episode, Irene, how can they do so?
They can contact me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm on both handles.
Excellent. And our other guest is Yashwan Sauji, a pioneering optometrist from Nagpur with thriving independent practice, specializing in contact lenses, binocular vision, and myopia management. He is a graduate of the Elite School of Optometry and a fellow of both LV Prasad Eye Institute and the International Association of Contact Lens Educators. He brings over 3 decades of experience to the field. Yashwan has earned multiple accolades, including Best Optometrist of the Year and Alumnus of the Year, and is a driving force behind Masterclass Optometry, which is an initiative focused on practical application-based training. Yashwan, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Matt. Thank you for having me here. Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Same question for you. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, how can they do so?
Well, same as Irene, because I'm pretty much there in all the social media handles, whether it is LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, email. So I'm available. Just run a search on my name, and I think you should have all the handles.
Fantastic. And to round out this group is our returning champion, Matthew Herzberg. He is a renowned optometrist, orthokeratologist, one of the all-time gurus, one of the pioneers of our industry. He has over 50 years of experience in optometry, myopia management, pediatric practice. He's also my father. Gary, welcome back to the podcast.
Well, thanks, Matt. It's great to be here again. So I'm looking forward to today because we have some distinguished guests with us, leaders in the field, that just my colleagues that I just love to rub shoulders with and exchange ideas all the time. They're just inspirations for me as well to work with them.
Fantastic. Yeah. And before we get things kicked off here, a little bit of housekeeping. If you want to support the podcast, if you're interested in more, myopiamindset.com is how you do so. All right, so let's get to the questions that I've been taking notes on over the course of the episode for the panel here. So I want to go back to diameter, which was the very first thing we talked about. Why is diameter? Because the practices I've been in and the consulting I did with J&J, where I would go into a practice and then fit a lens, and 9 times out of 10, if there was a problem, it was the diameter. The culprit was incorrect HVID measurement. That's where it all started. How do we fix this problem? Because I think this is one of the shortcuts that a lot of doctors are taking. They're not measuring HVID correctly. So I want to put this question to the panel. Why is this happening, and what kind of advice can we give to fix it? Let's start with Yashwan.
Well, people are not in the habit of measuring HVID because they did not have custom diameters available up till now. So whatever is the HVID, we have to fit it from the same set, which is 10.6 or 10.5, whatever. But now that we have these options, and especially options for customization, I think every eye care practitioner should get into the habit of measuring the HVID and get the lens to about 95% of HVID. That will solve most of the issues, because we all know stability of the contact lens depends a lot on the diameter.
Right. Irene, what do you think?
So I agree that, measuring the HVID is the first step. As a usual routine, I don't think people do that. And nowadays, even for soft lenses, they really don't need not even the base curve or the curvature of the cornea. But yes, measuring that and having two different ways to do it. Either you take it from your topographer or you physically measure it with the scale on the slit lamp. So that gives a comparison. And the other best way would be to trial fit a known diameter lens and then decide on the lens diameter from there, even if you're not doing the corneal measurement. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah. And Carrie, let me throw this one over to you too. Based on what was just said, if we have an incorrect diameter, what is and I'll open this up to the panel as a whole too, but I'll start with Carrie. If we do have an incorrect diameter, what's the best step forward when making an adjustment? Because obviously we didn't start out correct. So should we be washing out the patient if we realize we have the wrong diameter, or should we start making adjustments? And what do those adjustments look like?
Yeah, and you don't want to hope you're not that far off, but of course you don't want to extend onto the sclera from the, you don't want to go over the limbus if you can avoid it, with the lens fit at all. But you're not, hopefully you were close enough that you can just adjust it a tenth or 2/10, nothing huge here, to change that diameter. If you feel like it's too large, if it's too small, you can, again, I don't recommend doing that large amounts of change in that refit. But you need to refit it because you can't even judge the fit. If your diameter, for instance, your diameter is too big, you're not going to be able to tell even what's going on in the cornea. It'll disguise the actual fit of the lens, with the fluorescein pattern.
It's going to be too steep and you just can't judge.
Just come off the eye, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It won't look good.
Yeah. All right. The next question I had was around something that Irene said about kinds of initial alterations instead of, you're confident enough that what kind of alterations you can make starting out. We don't have to wait for the long-term effects to take place. I was wondering if we could go into that more. We'll start with Irene, and if the others have anything to add to it. I was fascinated by this. What kind of starting alterations have you learned to make, or that you can make starting out, instead of having to wait in that long term to see what happens?
True. Like in some lenses, like talking about the diameter, if it's not a huge difference, then if you want to go like a couple of millimeters this way, smaller or larger, then you might very easily judge from the fit of the lens itself and do the alteration. It's not going to alter the central fit much. So you don't have to even wait for another lens of a different diameter and then check the fit. You can right away order that and, it works. So this comes with time and experience. And even if it's the central flattening, if you want to go like a half a diopter steeper, flatter, then you can judge the power of the lens that you want to order, depending on which brand you use.
Right.
So I think these adjustments can be made right away.
Right. And Yashwant, do you have any initial adjustments that you've learned?
I basically would again repeat the Jessen factor and the positive asphericity. And there is one adjustment which we did not touch in this podcast is the toricity. So we need to find out at what chord the lens is landing, and we need to check what is the sag differential at that chord. So if it is more than 30 microns, then we have to go in for toric peripheral curves. The problem is the moment you see toricity in the prescription, people think you automatically need a toric contact lens. Whereas what we need to see is whether the alignment curves need to be toric or not based on the sag differential at about 8.5 millimeter chord. So that's something which is very, very important.
Yeah.
Gary, you would agree with that?
Yeah, well, I have a little different twist on it, but yes, I think it's something that we'll have you guys come back on and talk about. Definitely, that's another topic to discuss. It's an excellent one. Thank you, Yashwant, for bringing that one up. So we'll put that on the list. Yeah, well, that deserves more time. That deserves that's a discussion in itself. And all of us have a little different twist on it. But to answer Matt's question, if I may, in my own point of view, when you are dealing with the fit of the lens, and as far as evaluation of how effective the fit of the lens is, the topography is your ultimate gauge here. I mean, the human eye can't can't see the difference under 15 microns when you're using sodium fluorescein pattern. So you're not going to be able to tell small differences. My own perspective, and the other guys, you all can chime in on this. I've changed the lens 5 microns and seen the whole fit fall apart. So, I mean, obviously our human visual system is not capable of judging something that small. The contact lens that you're working with, it's the accuracy of this thing is in microns, of accuracy. It's the most accurate thing you have in your office. And even the lasers aren't as accurate as that contact lens that's been fabricated for you. So, the only way you really to judge the effectiveness of where are you getting anywhere with this fit is to look at your topography before and after, your difference maps and see what's happening with that eye, and then go from there. But you definitely can't judge it, looking initially at with an open eye at a sodium fluorescein pattern.
Gotcha. All right. I have another question. I hope we're okay on time. Irene, you had said that a lot of your patients that have initial discomfort, and they're crying or they're upset, and then after a certain amount of time, they couldn't do without Ortho-k. I've seen this working in Carrie's practice as well. I've seen it through consulting when I was with Johnson & Johnson as well. How do we manage that initial discomfort? Because we know that things are going to change. We've seen it over and over again. You would have these patients who are afraid to even touch their eye, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to be good Ortho-k candidates. They can be, but we have to manage that discomfort phase. So I want to throw it over to the panel. What are some tips about managing that discomfort so we can get them to that golden period where they can't do without Ortho-k? They love it.
I think the first thing that I do is, and I believe is a lot of counseling to the child and the parent. You need to give them the actual picture, or even make it sound even worse, that it can be very irritating, or, the eyes can tear up, it can become red, but it's all just for a few days. So you give them the actual picture. Don't tell them that's going to be like super comfortable initially, and then you'll be in for an anticlimax. So give them the true picture and then counsel them that, it's going to get better. Talk to the child, talk to the parent, let them be aware. And that way they take it better. Even if they see the child is having a little discomfort, even the parent's able to comfort them at home, couple of days, and then they're all fine. I think counseling is the first factor there.
Yeah. Yashwan, what about you?
Yeah, actually, I think we are overemphasizing on the discomfort part. I don't think the lenses are that uncomfortable. I mean, okay, when you put the lens on, it is about maximum 30 seconds. You close your eyes and then everything becomes very comfortable. So it is just that 30 seconds of gap, or maybe a minute of gap from the time the patient wears the lens and goes to bed and closes the eyes. That's the amount of discomfort that we're talking about. So fortunately, I've never had too much of redness or watering or crying patients. I mean, you try to talk them out of it. Tell them that when you wake up, you don't need to wear glasses. You'll be able to see everything clearly. And the child would drift into beautiful dreams. I even tell them, your dreams are going to be much more sharper.
Right.
Once you wake up,
I love it.
You tell me what you dreamt about. And the kid is so excited to tell you about his dream that he or she tends to forget about the discomfort. The discomfort is there only when the eyes are open along with the lenses on. Otherwise, there is no discomfort.
I mean, I would not agree to no discomfort. There is discomfort.
There is.
Because very young kids, 8, 9-year-olds, they don't take it easily. It takes at least 4 to 5 days for them to get adapted to it. So you keep the parents informed that it can be uncomfortable. The child can complain a lot, but you talk to the child that it's going to be like super clear and, very comfortable during the day, and give them the positive picture. I think that's how it works. Otherwise, middle of the night, I've had parents call me, message me, saying that the child is tearing. What should I do? I said, just
fortunately,
leave it. It's fine.
Yeah.
So
Carrie,
you need to give them both. You need to tell them both.
Right. Yeah. Carrie, I grew up in your practice. It helps to be an Ortho-k wearer as a staff member, because you can relate that personal experience. And, I was an Ortho-k wearer. I hope to be soon, after my 4-month-old is sleeping better through the night, which he's getting better and better at. So once he does,
I am still an Ortho-k wearer. So
you're okay. So let's go into that. Yeah.
Yes. And the parents are very excited when I tell them that I'm still wearing it and my kids are using it. So, they get motivated.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
it's a great tool. I think it's an often overlooked aspect of a practice to get your staff involved or to fit your own kids, like you mentioned, Irene.
Yeah.
True,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, in my experience, I've done a lot of contact Ortho-k fitting, over 10,000 fits and many. That's just where I stopped counting. I think I could count on one hand the number of patients that we couldn't get the program done because of comfort. I mean, it's such a small percentage. You remember them because obviously you do, because you always remember the negative. But for the most part, like like Irene are talking about, you give them a couple of minutes with those lenses on. It's almost like a miracle that even with their eyes open, it begins to settle down and they begin to get a lot more comfortable. And so what started out as being a little shaky kind of a couple of minutes turns into something very positive for the child, in the end. So there are just a select few patients that are, have really super sensitive and can't, have a tough time dealing with this. And I also, just as a sidelight, I did patent the scleral lens Ortho-k design that actually gets around that problem. But,
Interesting.
back in the day, and that was very effective as well as far as patients who had more sensitive eyes. So
Nice.
we did fit scleral Ortho-k.
Yeah.
That's a discussion for another day.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
definitely. Yeah. I have seen in person a special needs kid who has sensory issues who had a horrible time starting INR for Ortho-k, but like most moms out there, his mom was an absolute rock star and helped him through it very slowly, got him wearing the lenses. And I had the benefit of seeing this kid's reaction the next day. This was a kid who was melting down because his sensory overload was happening. And to see him the next day, just like wide-eyed, looking around, pointing at things that he had never really been able to, specifically detail before, absolutely life-changing. And it makes us want to not give up on any kid. Any kid could potentially benefit from this. And I love those experiences where they realize everything. And then you have the connection with the parents, like y'all mentioned earlier. Do we have any way of communicating to the parents what their kids are going through before they start treatment? Because I know that this is a big disconnect with parents, is they may not even understand what their child is going through because they just are not seeing it through their kids' eyes. So anybody who wants to start us out on that, is there any method you're using in your practice to help communicate what the kids are going through?
So for a kid who is requiring about -6 of myopic correction, if we just put +6 in the trial film and put it on the parent's face, I think that is more than enough for the parent to be convinced that the kid needs Ortho-k.
Yeah.
That's something that I routinely do.
Okay. Yeah.
If you have a patient whose parents have gone through LASIK, it's you talk about the LASIK experience, which is very similar to Ortho-k. They'll get it right away that's going to do a similar effect. It's really it's really amazing how the relationship between LASIK and Ortho-k. We as the orthokeratologists and LASIK surgeons have a lot in common. We're doing pretty much the same thing to the cornea. As far as ours is a temporary change, non-surgical, but it's a similar effect. But you put that, you could show the parent that and what the difference is. But I found the best way is just if you've got a trial lens set in your practice and you put that lens on the eye, and you get through the initial tearing, which usually isn't too bad, and within 5-10 minutes you've got a miracle going on because you take the lenses off and the kids can, unless they got a really really high prescription, and even if they have a high prescription, they'll say, "My God, I can see the E now."
Yes.
Right? Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff.
True. Even if they're not reading, the whole chart, even if they read the 20/200. The reaction from the kids, they're like,
Yep.
it motivates the parents also. They're like, really? You can see now?
It empowers them because they're coming from a standpoint of being a victim. And now you've empowered them to do something about it. Their eyes have been getting worse. No one's really had a solution for this. And all of a sudden you're changing this, and you're taking it from that victim status to being one who's empowered, who can now do something, has control. And that's an amazing difference.
And the other difference I see is in parents, it's themselves. Like nowadays, the parents, they are very sensitive to how the child feels, how child sees, and it's not that we don't have to really explain too much to them. In fact, they come asking us like, if we can make it any better for the child. So I think that way they are also very concerned these days. I'm seeing the younger parents.
Yeah, that's a generational thing too. I've seen with my son here and his parenting now. He's doing so much better job than I did. And they're much more sensitive to the. We just grew up in different eras. It's like,
True.
Who thought about sending a child out that they were going to get snatched or something, or that you had to protect your kids and be aware of this. We did everything. Right? And so we did everything. We didn't even think about it, even things that today they would say, no, you don't do that. It's dangerous. So, yeah. So parents are a lot more aware of everything today.
Right.
Yeah. So this has been great. Do any of you want to, offer any other things that you're doing? I mean, my perfect intention is to bring you back again and let's do this again and talk about, carry on with the topics and to another, to the next series if we can. But I think, before we go, I'd like to really make a commentary here that both of you have been very close to my heart and been the driving force, in Ortho-k around the world, not just and I want to make word the just because India in that area is huge, for us, population wise and the drive of myopia management itself. But you've been both international in your scope, so you've affected and helped us all over the world with this myopia mission. So I want to thank you both for that and the work you do now currently, and we've all met up in different places and probably, just not that long ago, as long as God willing, right, we stay healthy enough to be able to do that again. I think it's a wonderful life, that we can just share that. So thank you.
Definitely. And thanks to you, Carrie. When I started off in San Diego, 2007, I came to the Vision by Design conference, and that's where we started. And from then, I've known you, and your guidance and knowledge has helped a lot. Yeah,
that was for all of us, Irene. That was just the San Diego conference was a kickoff for a lot of different things. So
True.
And similarly for India, I think, Harry, you would remember it was the Goa conference.
I'll never forget it.
It all started there. And later on, the Vision by Design, India's first Vision by Design conference in Mumbai.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
2019. The Goa was 2018. Yes.
Yeah, that was just, an amazing landmark thing to go there. And my first coming across what they call Indian time. So we fully get an appreciation of what that meant, and trying to manage a schedule. But that was fun, Yes, Goa was incredible. Yeah.
If you're interested in getting the rest of the episode, consider becoming a paid supporter of the Myopia Mindset. In addition to an extended version of this episode and every other episode that we do, you'll also get access to exclusive monthly bonus episodes of the Myopia Mindset. And I know you're interested. You've made it this far. You can do so on our Substack, myopiamindset.substack.com. I'll see you at the next one.